Hi, everybody. This is Reverend Thom Muller. I'm the junior editor of Our Daily Bread at spiritualquesters.org. Thanks for tuning into this video. I had a chance this week to sit down and talk to Curtis Childs, who's been a very active YouTuber working with the Swedenborg Foundation on his Off the Left Eye YouTube channel, which is really great. You should really check it out. Now, Curtis and I talked for just under half an hour, and this was the first of our recorded conversations. We'll be back very soon with another Skype talk with Curtis and Colin Amato, who's another Swedenborgian YouTuber, and myself, so stay tuned. Now enjoy the video that we made, a short conversation we had. I'd love to have some input and comments, whatever this talk brought up for you, to get the discussion rolling on both the YouTube site as well as our website. So please feel free to comment, and thank you so much for checking out this video. Welcome, Curtis Childs. Thank you so much for being here with us today. This is a kind of a casual conversation between you and I today. The basic theme that we at Our Daily Bread were hoping to kind of engage today was the new church. What does it mean on very different levels and different scenarios to be a person who is interested in having a discussion about Swedenborg in this time and age? What does it look like? What are some of the insights? What are some of the ideas, hopes that either of us have kind of developed? So again, welcome so much. Thank you for being here. I believe most of the people that will be viewing this today might already be familiar with you. But nonetheless, if you could go ahead and give a short intro to yourself, what your work has been like, and how your work has recently developed with Off the Left Eye, etc.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. And I like the idea for discussion because it's something that I try to think about a lot too. Is what's it look like? I mean, you've obviously got ideas you can read, but what does that look like to live that? And how do you build sort of superstructure around that? So I'm interested in getting to that. So my background is, right now I'm working for the Swedenborg Foundation. Have been for probably 4 years. I don't remember exactly how many. And just about all my time is spent on YouTube. We're making generally long-form video content, close to an hour. Every Monday we have this show, which is where we go through some aspect of Swedenborg and try to tie it into other into scientific disciplines and experiential experiential experiences, life situations that you go through, and see how does this theoretical stuff go with this stuff that you're learning, in the Swedenborg, out in the Swedenborg world. So there's that. And if you had told me a year ago that I would be doing that, I would have said, what? No, because I wouldn't have thought that would have worked, 2 years ago. But actually people are diving with the long form content. And so we've built a following there, and we're looking, how do you take Swedenborg's ideas and sort of reduce barriers to entry? If someone picks up a book of Swedenborg, you got to think, I know there's cool stuff in there. What's going to keep them from going there? Are they going to pick it up and it's confusing, or is it boring, or is it offensive, or what is it? And how do we show them, wait, once you get past a few things or understand what they mean, it's actually cooler than you think? And then how do we take it from all this massive information, this wide open, you can go in any direction, learn about anything, to something that's focused and is going to change lives and be interesting. So that's sort of what we're trying to do. I'm part of this larger effort by the Swedenborg Foundation to do stuff on the web. We do Facebook community as well. We have Swedenborg's books available for free to download. We're translating those. So there's a lot of stuff we're doing. And I would say my role in it is to try to think of what are some ways you can render Swedenborg into a consumable form, that's going to not just be palatable, but be like essential. And like, this is something I want to keep coming back for. So it's been an amazing couple of years for me because, I grew up thinking nobody was ever going to be interested in Swedenborg. Like I knew a few people that were, but most people weren't. And I would tell some people about it, and they're like, "Oh, that's cool," but it's just this tiny little drop in the bucket, which it still is compared to the world population. But we've had this for something Swedenborgian, a very large audience growth in the past couple of years on this. So I get this experience of seeing people who have no previous interaction with Swedenborgian concepts love it, not just come across it, but love it and feel like it's changing their life. And they send us clips of themselves talking about it. And pardon me. It shows to me this is cool stuff. It does mean something. It does have potential. So that justifies my continued interest and participation in it. So it's been a very cool couple of years. So that's the basics of what I'm up to.
Nice, right on. Yeah, I've been a big fan of your work from the beginning on. I think the first time we met was actually at Bernathen College when you gave a talk. I think it was Informal Chapel or something like that about the head bullies.
That's right.
And seeing even at that point, people really resonated with it and with your message and your style. And it's been really fun to see your work develop. And one of the things I wonder is, what is it for you? What is it personally for you? You seem enthusiastic about Swedenborg, his ideas, his works. What is it for you personally? What's the benefit that you gain?
I see Swedenborg as the best potential to solve all the problems of life. I think for me, his concepts have given me leverage and healing and insight in a way that nothing else has. They haven't. Not all my problems are gone, but his stuff has been the most potent for navigating my own psyche and choosing a way to look at life. It's the most potent medicine that I've come across. So I think that I've just scratched the surface of its potential, and I really do think this can change the world, which is a corny thing to say, but I look at the life and there's all this stuff going on that's great, and there's all this stuff going on that's not great at all. How do you solve these problems? And there's a lot of smart people working on them, but we can't quite do it, So I think there's the potential in Swedenborg to do that, to be a good partner in a lot of the fields that are trying to help the human race. So I see it. It's a lifeline for me, and so for that, I feel like I need to give it back. But also, when I'm thinking about what's our trajectory, what's the goal, I want to see. It doesn't necessarily mean everyone in the world is reading Swedenborg, but I think everyone in the world life has been improved in some way by the insights people take out of that and apply to life in various creative ways to do things. So I'm hoping that I think it's my best shot at improving the world is to try to get this stuff out here. And I'm bullish on it being more potent than anybody really realizes, which is, of course, goes back to that nobody even knows it exists in the first place. So, of course, they sell it short. So that's my hope. And I don't know. It seems like so far for the people we've been reaching, it is that thing. People will say, this thing X and Y didn't make sense to me until I found you guys. This has been what's connected the pieces that were missing for me. This helped me when something else didn't. So we're getting feedback from the people it did help, but I see that happening in those people, and I think, let's keep doing it better. Let's keep doing it bigger, get it more and more potent, and have a broader and broader reach and see what we can do.
Yeah. By the way, for those people who are watching who aren't familiar with Curtis's work yet, I guess the best way to expose yourself to it would be to go to YouTube and type in Off the Left Eye. And there's your YouTube channel that you can subscribe to.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm intrigued by and that I'd love to have some conversation around is there's a difference, say, between the work that I'm doing, that we're doing with Our Daily Bread, and the work that you're doing with the Swedenborg Foundation. The Swedenborg Foundation is a non-denominational organization that publishes Swedenborg and tries to bring him into the broader dialogue. Now I'm an ordained minister in one of the churches that is based on Swedenborg, and Our Daily Bread is affiliated with the Swedenborgian Church of North America. So there are these different vantage points, I guess, of people who are interested in Swedenborg. And so I kind of have a two-part question for you.
Sure.
Around this whole topic, which would be, on one hand, what would be your hope? What could you imagine could happen in the next years and the next decades in the broader Swedenborgian movement, whether that means independent little communities, established denominations, folks reading, studying by themselves, folks doing ministries online, etc., etc. What would be some of your hopes or ideas that transcend those, different aspects of the work that's being done for the broader sort of Swedenborgian movement? What would you like to see? Where do you see potential? And then the second part of that question would be more concrete, from the perspective of someone who is involved in a Swedenborgian denomination. And I, as a pastor here in California, I've had several times when people have come to our church and they found out about Swedenborg through one of your videos.
Okay.
And which I think is a wonderful thing, and I know is happening throughout those organizations. What would you like to see in those groups, in those communities, as an approach, as an awareness of those folks that are coming in who have been exposed to Swedenborg mostly through a virtual kind of community? What would be your ideas about, your advice, for lack of a better term, for folks who are involved in those organizations to be open towards that, you could say, wave of folks who are looking for a physical community that has to do with some of this stuff?
All right. So I'll answer those in reverse order.
Yeah, right on.
As far as what do people need when they walk out of seeing the videos and they want to come find community, people are always going to want physical community. I don't think that's ever going to go away. And what I would say is every Swedenborgian organization is working from the same baseline, which is Swedenborg's material, right? So it's all there, but the question is, what's the branding on it when somebody shows up? Like what do they feel like? And there's some Swedenborgian organized gatherings that I know if a person goes from off the left eye to there, they're not going to understand the connection. They're going to say, like, what's this? Like this is way different. So it's never going to be that every single one is compatible. But there'll always be subsets of compatibility. But I would say that what we try to do on my show is hit people, like the nature of the brand of Off the Left Eye is it's tech savvy and it's smart, as smart as we can try to be, but then it's also doesn't take itself too seriously and it tries very hard to be interesting. And there's these elements of the old and the new simultaneously, like we are using green screen and motion graphics, but yet we're reading out of 250-year-old books, and we sort of try to balance those together. And I try to render as faithfully as I can what I feel like once I've gotten deep within Swedenborg. So if you're a Swedenborgian minister, you've gotten to the point where you're reading this stuff and you're like, this is awesome. Like, this is really cool. I'm trying to take that feeling of mine and make sure that's the first thing people feel when they interact with our stuff, And I think that the more that people get that, the more that it's going to, even if your feeling and my feeling is a little different, if people can sense that the potency of that, it's going to click. So that's just sort of a preamble to it, is that I think everybody who's out there with an organization, how do you make sure that the first impressions people are getting show the value in the life-changing material that you found? Because it's a total free market place of ideas right now out there, and people can go to church if they want, they can not if they want. People can have a million options. So how are you going to show people? I think the good news is I think Swedenborg stuff is so cool that once you get people to it, they'll stay. But how do you get people to give it a chance long enough? It's like sometimes it hits people really fast. I know this is kind of a tangent, but I want to talk about it. Sometimes it hits people really fast, Swedenborg stuff. They'll come in and they're like, this is awesome. Sometimes it takes a while. It takes a few offerings for people to really start to understand, whoa, the comprehensive nature of it and what it's actually saying. So what I would say is, okay, so I said a few things on the second question. And now I'm going to go back to the first question, and then we'll wrap up. But as far as what I would like for the future of Swedenborgian gathering in general, I think that the world is kind of moving away from church, but I like churches. I think, like, I would love to see those things thrive and be able to deliver experiences that would really augment people's study. And I think it's time to like put everything on the table and see what's trying to be what. Do we want to more clearly differentiate experiential stuff versus intellectual stuff? Like I'm thinking about, you go and you hear us, so I grew up going to Swedenborgian churches. You go there, you hear a sermon and there's some music, and that's what you do. But what else is out there in the potential? And what's it look like in the future? Is it like people absorb their information through stuff like what we're doing right now? Like they're listening to a podcast, watching a video, and then they go gather in these communities to have that experiential side. Is that what they're doing, where it's just a little bit of concepts, but mostly whatever the experience of it is, whether it's music or something else. I don't know. Maybe that's the way it tends, or maybe it's kind of both are doing both. You get conversations that give you stuff, but then you get a different conversation on Sunday, a different kind of tone in it. Man, I think about. I've tried to envision the Swedenborgian church service of the future in my mind, and what I keep coming back to is, I've already said this word a few times, but experiential, and I specifically mean experience of correspondences.
Yeah.
Which that doesn't maybe sound that cool when I say it, but what I mean is there's a passage in the second volume of Arcana Celestia, or Secrets of Heaven, where he talks about the most ancient church, what they would do is they would look at objects and understand their deeper symbolism.
Right.
And that he says that's what sight was made for. Like that is how you're supposed to be using sight. So I could see this multi-sensory thing where you go in and I tried to do this. There's like a little independent Swedenborgian service near where I am that they just let anybody come talk. Just kidding, but they let me come talk. So and I did this thing where I was like, we're going to go through a few things. We did music, and then we did fire, like we lit candles, and then did water, like drank water. And I was just loading a few correspondences into their mind about it. But like, so water is like truth, and I would set it up a bit, but now it's like, drink the water, and what does it tell you? And the reason that I'm into something like that, so drink the water and like look at the fire. Like this is I can talk to you about God's love, right? But this is actually like a physical representation of it. This is going to be more wisdom about it in there than I have. So, and the reason that I like that idea is that's been powerful to me. There'll be times when I'm thinking about a Swedenborg thing and I feel like, oh, I get it. Like I'm seeing this tree and I get what it means from a correspondence. And so is that sort of a potential experiential thing? So what I'd love to see is just innovation. Yeah. And people being willing to really try things and figure it out, which I know a lot of people are doing. And I think like pool results, like, hey, I did this and it was this, I did this and it was this. So because really, like, I feel like historically churches have just kind of said, and I don't mean Swedenborgian churches, I just mean all churches are like, well, we're just going to like have a product that was designed a long time ago, and we don't really need to make it any better or do much upgrading because it's church. But it's like there needs to be a lot of R&D into those experiences, in my opinion, because it's like we're trying to give people this most important thing in life. So I want people to try stuff and like go at it with the tenacity that people actually develop products. Like, does this work? Does this work? No. What if we tweak this? Ask people, have them rate it. I don't know exactly what to look for, but there should be. I talked about, and then I'll close on this. But I talked about the potential of Swedenborg to help. If Swedenborg is actually giving you this huge amount of data about the essential reality of life, the mechanics of how consciousness works and the physical world works and what the intent behind it all was, you should be able to pull out of that really powerful experiences. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how do we do that? I think it's a great question. It's not something we can just solve right away. It's going to take work. So it's going to take people like you continuing to do that. And I hope to be playing that game as well. Like I want to be working with churches or any groups to try to figure out what are other ways that this can render. Because still, even what we're doing online, it's just we're talking at you. I mean, we give a lot of we try to work in video and all kinds of interesting stuff to make it interesting. But we're just giving you a big, long message. What else can you do with this stuff? So those are a couple of thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, one of the things I've always found beautiful about Swedenborg and his work and Swedenborgianism as a consequence of that is that there really is no prescription. I
Yeah.
can't think of a single, other than maybe an open word, a single distinctly Swedenborgian practice. And there's a lot of beauty in that if you think about it. The idea that this dude did not want to, or had no interest in himself in starting a church, starting a denomination. It was a much broader kind of notion, which I think gives us a lot of freedom, not only practically but theologically, to really embrace a forward-looking kind of approach to spiritual community, right? One of the things I kind of facetiously say sometimes is if we take Swedenborg seriously, in a sense, we are further in the new church than he was. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
And
right.
this kind of idea of the new church, however you understand it, as being by its nature a progressive thing in the sense that it is forward-looking, looking always to, embrace the future rather than looking back to the past. So that's one of the reasons that gives me that enthusiasm about Swedenborg's ideas is at their very core, there's an invitation to be forward-looking.
Yeah, and not to mention the world has changed in these amazing ways
Yes.
since Swedenborg's time. He talks all the time about in the spiritual world. What's so cool about the spiritual world is when you're talking, there can be visual representations at the same time. It's like, but we can do that now in the
Right.
physical world. That's what we're doing on the web. You can have that. So these things that were, theoretical physically, back now we can do that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, and there's times like we've done programming on, Swedenborg talks about fermentation as a correspondence to the regeneration process. We know a lot more about fermentation now than he did then. And we did a show where we looked at not just the process, but the specifics of the chemical process. It was like, the correspondence holds up even in the little details of the yeast. So it's like almost, there's a whole new world to explore there. And it's exciting. So I agree with you that there's potential to put things together that are way better than anything we've done before.
Well, Curtis, thanks again so much, not only for this time that we just got to spend together, but also for the work that you've been doing and continue to do. Again, find Curtis if you are not already subscribed. Go to YouTube, Off the Left Eye. You'll find very, very frequently updated, really fantastic videos about themes surrounding Swedenborg. So anything in conclusion you wanted to say, Curtis?
Sure. I want to say this was fun. I appreciate getting to talk to you about it. And as I said, the only way that the Swedenborgian thing will I think realize its potential is for everybody to take their own unique love and wisdom and apply it to it and find out how do I best render this thing that I treasure. How do I make it? Because I've seen it in people. People come across Swedenborg, it affects everyone in a different way, and people pull something useful out of it, whether it's, artists and how they render it, or people who come up with techniques, or people who come up with church services. There's all this different stuff, and that's how we're going to unlock all of its little secrets, because there's got to be something that God is showing to each person that only they can understand. That's the promise of the unique individual heaven. So the more people are doing that, the more potent the thing is going to become, and I think it really can change the world. So I'm just encourage everybody who sees this, keep doing your part. Keep finding what you can find in it that I can't, and you can teach me, and you can teach all of us, and we can all teach each other. And from that, the point is we're going to really give people this thing, because the people will say when they find Swedenborg through the channel, like, this is exactly what I was looking for. And I want to give people that feeling and continue. And the more different creative ways we have of rendering it, the more people that might even pass by what I'm doing will like what you're doing and say, that's right. That hits me. So the more we create these wider and wider catcher's mitts, to get people in there. So appreciate it. And thanks for making me part of the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Curtis.